There are times when the world seems excessively noisy, even when everything is quiet, in silence. Have you ever noticed how certain situations around you change without you forcing anything? As if something invisible is rearranging the space between you and life? Imagine a forest at dawn. The mist still covers the ground. The leaves keep the night dew, and no being tries to dominate the other. Everything just is. In this natural state, nothing competes, nothing demands, nothing hurry up. Still, everything changes. Many people believe that changing people and situations requires confrontation, effort, constant or rigid control. But nature never acts like that. The wind does not push the mountain. Water does not argue with stone. And yet both transform everything that play. There is an ancient wisdom that observes this silent flow and learns from it. One wisdom that doesn't scream, doesn't impose, doesn't fight. It just aligns. When someone enters in this state of harmony, something curious happens. The surrounding environment begins to respond otherwise. Relationships soften. Conflicts lose strength. Paths open up wherever before there were blockages. Maybe you are living in a period where everything seems resistant. Difficult people, repetitive situations, emotions that return like insistent waves. And maybe the question not be how to change this, but how to position myself differently within about this. When the inside finds balance, the outside reorganizes itself, not by magic but by resonance. The ancient observers of the invisible knew that every internal gesture echoes in the world. One purified thought alters a conversation. A silent attitude redefines an environment entire. A serene presence can transform situations that seemed immutable. In this video, you will be invited to walk through 8 silent, inspired teachings in the way nature moves. Teachings that do not seek to convince, but awaken. They do not promise control, but alignment. They don't talk about winning, but about harmonize. If you feel, even without knowing how to explain it, that there is something invisible guiding your days, so remain here. This path begins now, in the subtle space between what you see and what you feel. The first teaching comes from the simplest observation. Nothing in nature exists in isolation. The tree cannot live without the soil. The river doesn't flow without its banks. The bird doesn't sing without the air that supports it. Everything remains in relationship, in a silent agreement that does not need to be explained. When we forget this, conflicts arise. We try to live as if we were separated from the world, fighting against people, circumstances, and even ourselves. But harmony doesn't come from victory. It comes from fit. Just like a stone finds his place in the riverbed, human beings also find peace when they resist the flow that surrounds you. Harmony is not passivity. It's sensitivity. It's understanding when to move forward and when to retreat, when to speak and when to be silent, when to insist and when to release. In nature, there is no excess. The branch only grows as far as it can support its leaves. Rain only falls until the ground can absorb it. Everything knows yours limit, and that is what maintains the balance. The second teaching reveals itself in the present moment. Now, this very moment when you breathe. Life does not happen in what has already passed, nor in what has not yet arrived. It just pulses here, in the distant sound you hear, in the feeling of the supported body, in the stillness between one thought and other. When we are absent from the present, we lose touch with the reality, and we begin to react to phantasms created by the mind. Many situations become difficult not because they are really difficult, but because we are mentally in another place. The body is here, but the mind runs ahead, trying to predict, control, anticipate. This creates tension, and tension creates friction with the world. Presence dissolves friction. When you are truly present, your energy changes. Your gaze becomes more attentive. Your listening deepens. Words become more precise. People feel this, even without knowing how to explain it. Environments respond to this. Situations begin to rearrange around that stable presence. Observe the still water of a lake. When it calms down, everything is reflected clearly. But when it is agitated, no image forms. The same happens with the mind. A presence is the state in which the interior quiets enough to reflect the world without distortion. Living in harmony and presence doesn't just change you, it changes the field around you. Conflicts lose fuel when they do not find a reaction. People adjust when they feel space. Situations transform when they are not pressured. If this idea touches something inside you, maybe it's not a coincidence. Maybe it's a sign that your attention is returning to the right place. In the next teaching, we will walk even deeper toward purification and simplicity, where excess dissolves and the essential begins to breathe. The third teaching, the action begins with a silent gesture. Clean. In nature, everything goes through purification cycles. The rain washes the dust off the leaves. The river carries what no longer needs to stay. The wind crosses the fields and renews the air without asking permission. Nothing clings to what has already fulfilled its role. Human beings, however, tend to do the opposite. Accumulates unresolved thoughts. Keep old emotions. Repeat internal stories that no longer correspond to the present. And little by little, this accumulation creates weight. The weight creates rigidity. And rigidity affects everything around. Purity is not perfection. It's lightness. Being pure means allowing what has happened to take its course, without imprisoning it within yourself. It is realized when a thought no longer serves, when a heartache became a habit, when a fear became an identity. Purification happens when we let go, not when we fight. Imagine a mirror covered in dust. It has not lost its function. It just needs to be cleaned. So is the mind. When purified, it reflects life more clearly, and this clarity changes the way we relate to people and situations. The fourth teaching goes hand in hand with the third. Simplicity. In nature, nothing is excessive. A flower doesn't try to be more than a flower. Not a river carries more water than it can carry. Excess is not strength. It is imbalance. The simpler something is, the more freely energy circulates. In modern life, we are taught to complicate things. Complicate decisions. Complicate relationships. Complicate who we are. We believe that as much the more layers we add, the more value we have. But excess creates noise, and the noise in us away from the essential. Simplicity does not impoverish life. It reveals what really matters. When we simplify, we begin to notice what drains our energy unnecessarily. Conversations that lead nowhere. Concerns that do not can be resolved now. Obligations that we accept only out of habit. When removing the excess, something curious happens. There is space left, and where there is space, something new can enter. People feel when someone lives simply inside. There is less reactivity, less need to prove, less tension in the eyes. This transforms the environment. Conflicts decrease when they do not find complexity to rely on. Situations if they resolve faster when they are not fueled by emotional excess. Purifying and simplifying is a silent but powerful act. It is an internal change that reverberates externally. Not because you demand something from world, but because it stops offering resistance. If this idea resonates with you, perhaps something inside is already reorganizing itself. And when the inside reorganizes itself, the world responds. In the next teaching, we will move towards an even deeper principle, the impermanence, where we will learn to trust the movement of life, even when everything seems to change. There is a silent truth that runs through all existence. Nothing stays the same for long. The seasons change. The day turns into night. The body grows, ages, renews itself. Even mountains which seem eternal are slowly shaped by wind and water. Rain. Impermanence is not a flaw in the world. It is the movement of life itself. Many people suffer not because of change, but because of resisting it. Create fixed images of how things should be, and when reality goes another way, frustration arises. We try to hold what is leaving. We try to push what still didn't arrive. And in this effort, we move away from the natural flow. Impermanence teaches trust. When we understand that everything is constantly changing, we stop demanding stability where it cannot exist. Relationships change. Emotions change. Situations change. This doesn't mean loss. It means transition. Every end carries a hidden beginning, just as winter silently prepares spring. Observe a river. He is never the same, even when he looks the same. The water that passes now is not what passed before. Still, the river remains a river. The essence remains, even when the shape changes. The same happens with you. Their roles change, their phases they change, but something essential continues to flow inside. When we accept impermanence, something loosens up inside our chest. Anxiety decreases. The need for control weakens. We start living with more lightness because we do not demand that the present be eternal, nor that the future obey our plans. This changes the way we deal with people and situations. Conflicts lose intensity when we realize that they are temporary. Challenges become more bearable when we know that they do not define who we are. Even pain finds room to cross, instead to install. Impermanence also teaches us to value. When we know that something is not permanent, we become more present while exists. An encounter, a moment of peace, a peaceful phase. Everything gains depth when it is not taken for granted. There is a profound serenity in walking with change rather than fight her. It is how to adjust your body to the rhythm of the waves instead of swimming against the sea. Life stops being a battlefield and becomes a moving path. When you accept impermanence within yourself, the world around you responds with less friction. People feel less resistance. Situations flow more naturally. What you need to go, go. What needs to arrive, find space. In the next teaching, we will move even closer to the invisible, to reverence silence that transforms the way we perceive everything that cannot be seen, but was always present. There is much more going on around you than meets the eye. Subtle forces cross spaces, connect encounters, influence paths, and shape circumstances without ever showing themselves directly. The whole nature moves like this, guided by something that does not require to be seen to exist. To revere the invisible is to recognize that not everything needs to be understood to be respected. When we walk through a forest, we don't see the root system beneath the soil, but we feel its presence in the balance of the trees. When we breathe, we do not see the air, but we trust him with our lives. The invisible sustains the visible all the time. Modern human beings, however, were taught to value only what can be measured, proven, controlled. Anything beyond this is treated as irrelevant, but this posture creates an impoverishment of perception. We lose sensitivity. We lost listening. We have lost reverence. Reverence is not submission. It's deep attention. It is walking through the world with care, knowing that each place, each encounter, and each moment carries something greater than its immediate appearance. When someone moves with reverence, your actions become smoother. Your words carry less aggressiveness. Your silence starts to communicate more than long speeches. This stance changes relationships. People feel safer around people who respect their invisible, even without knowing why. There is less invasion, less imposition, less need to win. Instead, a space of mutual listening emerges, where situations can transform naturally. Revering the invisible is also recognizing limits. Not everything is under our command. Not every response needs to be immediate. Not all doubt demands solution now. There are times when the wisest thing is to observe, wait, allow time to reveal what is still hidden. In nature, nothing is rushed. The seed knows when to break through the earth. The moon knows when to grow and when to disappear. Everything respects a rhythm that cannot be forced. When we try to impose our will to the invisible, we create imbalance. When we respect, we create alignment. This teaching transforms difficult situations. Instead of reacting impulsively, you begin to perceive deeper layers. Instead of confronting, observe. Instead of demand, allow. And often this is enough for the environment to change on its own. There is a quiet strength in reverence. It doesn't attract attention, but it sustains everything. Whoever learns to honor it walks with more lightness, because it does not carry the weight of controlling what cannot be controlled. In the next teaching, we will go even deeper into this silence, exploring the value of empty space, pause, and non-action, where the greatest transformations happen without effort. There is a discrete power in what is not fulfilled, a power that is rarely realized because we are always too busy trying complete, explain, respond, act. But look closely at nature. What sustains everything is not excess. It is space. The sky does not compete with the clouds. Silence does not compete with sounds. It is precisely the void that allows everything to exist. In human life, however, we learn to fear silence. We fill each pause with words, every space with distractions, every void with worries. We believe that if we are not doing something, we will be wasting time. But this fear of emptiness takes away from one of the greatest sources of clarity. Silence is not absence. It is a deep presence. When you become silent inside, you begin to notice things that were previously overlooked, unnoticed. Subtle intuitions, small signs, changes of atmosphere in people and environments. Silence sharpens perception. It creates space for the invisible to manifest without having to force anything. In nature, non-action is as important as action. The earth rests before bearing fruit. The night allows the day to exist. Winter prepares the life to come. Nothing happens all the time. And that's not failure. It's wisdom. The teaching of space invites us to stop intervening excessively. Many situations do not require an immediate response. Many relationships do not ask for explanation, but for listening. Many conflicts resolve themselves when they do not receive constant attention. When you create space, something changes around it. People feel less pressure. Conversations become more genuine. The decisions mature by themselves. The silence gives time for everything to find its natural place. This does not mean omitting yourself from life, but acting with precision. Just as a gardener does not pull the plant to make it grow, those who respect the space know when to act and when simply allow. Excessive action is tiring. Too many. Words are confusing. Excess control suffocates. In the silence, you align yourself. Aligns thought, emotion, and intention. And when this alignment happens, the world responds differently. Situations that seemed stuck begin to move. People approach each other more authentically. Paths reveal themselves effortlessly. There are decisions that only arise when we stop looking for them. There are answers that only appear when we stop asking questions. Silence is not a void to be filled. It is a fertile field where anything can be born. If you allow more space within yourself, you will realize that not everything requires your energy. Neither everything asks for your reaction. Not everything depends on your strength. Some transformations happen precisely when you take a step back. In the next teaching, we will bring together everything that has been experienced so far, integrating these principles in daily walking, where each step becomes a natural expression of harmony. After crossing harmony, presence, purity, simplicity, impermanence, reverence, and silence, a final teaching emerges, not as something new, but as the union of all of the above, the way of walking. Walking in harmony is not reaching a special state. It's the way you move in the world when you stop fighting it. In nature, no being needs to be taught to walk in balance. The animal feels the land. The water recognizes the relief. The wind bypasses obstacles. Everything adjusts your movement to what you find. The human error was believing that we need to master the path instead of talking to him. When you walk in harmony, your choices become simpler, not because life became easy, but because you stopped wasting energy on futile resistance. There is less internal conflict, and this is reflected outside. Situations do not disappear, but they are no longer enemies. This teaching manifests itself in small gestures, in the way you enter an environment, in the way you respond to someone difficult, in the decision to advance or retreat, in the ability to understand when insisting breaks the balance. Walking in harmony means acting without aggression and resting without guilt. It is to accept that not every day will be productive. Not all answers will come now. It is trusting that the natural rhythm knows more than the rush of the mind. When someone walks like this, something changes around them. People feel less tension. Conflicts find less support. Situations that before they seemed stuck, they begin to move not by force but by adjustment. There is a quiet wisdom in knowing when to do nothing, and there is a profound strength in acting without rigidity. In modern life, this becomes an almost invisible act of transformation. Instead of reacting automatically, you observe. Instead of imposing, propose. Instead of carrying everything alone, it allows the flow to lead part of the way. This teaching does not call for isolation or withdrawal from the world. He asks for presence. Ask for sensitivity. Ask to be listened to. Walking in harmony is realizing that you are part of something bigger, and that by aligning internally, the exterior is reorganized. Not as a reward, but as a consequence natural. When you change the way you walk, the path changes with it. In the next and final block, we will bring everything together in a poetic closure. A return to silence from where it all began, with a final invitation to continue this journey beyond of this video, where the invisible continues to whisper at every step. At the end of every journey there is no endpoint. There is a return to the silence from which everything arose. After going through these teachings, perhaps you will notice something subtle. The world around you surroundings has not changed abruptly, but the way you perceive it is no longer the same. And that's enough. Because true transformation never begins outside. It is born in the invisible space where attention rests. Harmony does not require effort. Presence does not require haste. Purity comes when we let go. Simplicity appears when we stop accumulating. Impermanence teaches you to trust. Reverence gives us back our humility. Silence shows us what is essential. And walking in harmony integrates all of this into a single gesture. Living. When you align yourself from within, the world responds with less resistance. No because he obeys, but because you stopped fighting. People feel this. Situations feel this. There is less noise, less friction, less wear. What needs to leave finds a way out. Oh, that needs to arrive finds space. Perhaps this is the greatest lesson. You don't need to change the world by force to transform it. Just change the way you are present in it. If, throughout this video, something in you quieted, even for a few seconds, then something essential has already happened. Keep that silence. And it is a portal. It is in him that life reorganizes itself effortlessly. If you feel this path resonates with your own journey, sign up and keep going, walking with us along the path of the soul. Each conscious step deepens the listening. Each pause reveals new meanings. And before you leave, take with you one last question, like a whisper left by the wind among the trees. What if what we call destiny is just the way we learn, or don't learn, listening to what has always accompanied us in silence?